turf, the section of the game where they are comfortable. Ryze banned out immediately here, and I respect that. You look at the opposite lineup, not only is Ryze strong in the meta, but for Cotopaxi, it is a very solid pick overall. Urgot and Gragas going to follow. Priority, Vedius, a little different than we might have expected based on day one. What do you expect to see come out here?
Well, I'm looking at some other big comfort picks for Infinity, and I feel like Skarner needs to be taken off the board as well. Interestingly, they're going to take Arce off the Alistar. He has played a lot of things like the Rakan and the Braum. Not many Alistar games, but Edward Gaming is saying, you know what? We just don't want to deal with that champion right now. And you could on paper just say that they've taken away a lot of the strong meta picks, but as you rightly said, I think the Ryze takeaway from Cotopaxi is very strong because it will kind of force Cotopaxi onto more of a utility style champion in something like the Orianna or Lulu that will provide more backline support.
Interesting, though, the Kai'Sa going to be the lock-in iBoy with an incredible amount of games in this champion. Really reliable as a carry threat for the EDG lineup. Nunu hovers, though, being flashed back and forth. I don't think we're going to see either team play it, but maybe there's been new developments between day one and day two that have put the little Yeti and his friend up to the top of the
I would be very surprised if that was the case. I'd see an early priority on something like the Skarner. The Varus makes a lot of sense too. A strong laner into the Kai'Sa can net you some early leads towards the bot side of the map. They could look to early lock in a Braum as well, considering that he is considered, even after the nerfs, still one of the strongest supports in the current meta. It depends what kind of direction they want to go in. Morgana is something we've often seen as well as a kind of aggressive option, and it is something that we've seen a couple times from Arce.
Really taking their time, though, on the second pick here in the first rotation. Camille is going to be locked in. Now, usually I would assume this is the jungle Camille, but in a lot of these play-in regions, top lane Camille is still a huge priority. I want to see if Relic wants to try to take that into his own hands.
I think you got it right the first time, though, Dracos. You know, because when we look during the regular season of Solid Snake, the team has a lot of faith in their jungler. They will often put him on these carry-style champions, things like Nocturne, Camille, all have something that can skirmish in the early game, something that can net you a lot of early game leads, and he's kind of one of the big players that they look to enable, and that's why you often see things like the Lulu or Orianna from Cotopaxi when the Ryze isn't available, so that they can enable their jungler a little bit more. And in team fights, he's going to be a big player to watch. We talked a little bit about him before Champion Select, but it will also allow Mako to get one of his signature supports in the Tahm Kench as well.
Of course, that much more difficult to kill iBoy as the game progresses, and a little bit more difficult to play Camille, so teamfight's going to be a lot more difficult with that champion up and available, given over to Mako in the end, and LeBlanc now for Scout. Cotopaxi, you said, hey, maybe a defensive choice. Well, seems like you might need to take one up against a champion like that.
I'd love to see a Galio right now. I know it's not something that he often plays, but I think it would fit perfectly into the comp. Unfortunately, he's going to stick with the standard Lulu. I think that in terms of the matchup, it will give LeBlanc a lot of pressure, and once Lulu hits level 6, sure, she can be difficult to kill, but she is very squishy at early levels, and Scout will have a lot of control in that lane, and it will set him up nicely to be a threatening split pusher later on into the game, which, to be honest, I feel is one of his strongest attributes as a player. In a side lane, this guy is devastating. Mechanically, he's very solid. He has good awareness of where to move around the map, and I think LeBlanc is a perfect champion for him.
Then the question becomes, how do Infinity respond to this? Well, so far in the second pick phase, they're just taking away some of these stronger junglers. Clear Love, of course, pretty comfortable on Skarner, and is back in that Skarner meta. The Braum, though, going to get denied and taken away. The other really strong tank bottom side limited and taken off the board. Now what are Infinity going to go for? Could we see a Lulu flex, Vedius? Is it possible?
We could. It's not something that they've played during their regular season. Morgana is another option. Shen is another one too. If they're feeling ambitious, they could go for the Pyke. I mean, they already have a decent amount of damage with the Camille and the Varus. You're expecting a tanky kind of top laner, but maybe if they're feeling confident, they really want to play towards bot side of the map, then that is an option for them. But for now, Infinity are just continuing to take away these junglers, limit the number of options that Clearlove has at his disposal.
And he is the wild card here, so it makes a decent amount of sense. You haven't got as much of a sample size on what Clearlove is going to bust out here, as he played on the starting lineup in a bit of time. Now picking what appears to be the support option. Will confirm that Lulu into the mid lane if they lock the Janna here. Another defensive choice, not the Pyke. I kind of wanted to see the Pyke, Vedius, but it's the Shen instead. Could still go top lane, but I love support Shen. The ability to go support your top laner to say, I want to get the heck out of here and help a different lane, always appeals to me.
I think it also does pretty well into the Tahm Kench lane. You can be pretty aggressive with it. you can net yourself some pretty solid advantages. And as you rightly said, it has the global setup. You can combine it with the Camille when you're trying to set up engages. Gives Solid Snake a bit of extra tankiness and gives him a couple more options when he's looking to invade and get up in your face. So I quite like the pick. Edward Gaming going to round things out with a little bit more engage though, and maybe some damage for Clearlove.
Ooh, Nocturne locked in for Clearlove. I like it's confident. Gonna come in at level 6. Now there's a Lulu and a Shen. This feels like a hard team for Nocturne to get a lot done, but I respect Clearlove taking it anyway. He says, wherever you're alone, wherever you're isolated, I'm going to show up and I'm going to kill you.
Well, I think it's important to remember that once the Nocturne ultimate comes down, that Shen ulti cannot be used. So he will have the surprise if EDG are the ones to kick off the fights. And it can also, I love the combo of Ornn plus Nocturne too, because you throw the darkness down and then you don't actually know where the Ornn ult is coming from. The near sight that you get afflicted with makes it really difficult to predict the engage. And you think about all the mobility that EDG have at their disposal, the ability for Tahm Kench to flank behind you, the ability for Kai'Sa to ulti anywhere she pleases, the LeBlanc to come out from nowhere. Like, the moment that Nocturne ulti comes down, Infinity just go into panic mode and have to start clumping up into this little cluster to avoid getting picked off. But then Ornn is like, oh, thank you so kindly for grouping up. So I feel like the engage options are perfect for EDG, and I think they're set up for success for finding early leads with this LeBlanc pick in the mid lane.
Exactly what they wanted to see, but on the opposite side for Infinity, what avenues do they have to take the lead in this game to stop this, LeBlanc, Nocturne, Ornn kind of combo from picking off these members, from shutting down this opposition? What are Infinity's routes into this game?
Well, I think you really want to limit the ability of LeBlanc to find an early lead, and you're also going to try and shut the Nocturne down as much as possible. The thing about his jungle clear is it is pretty fast, and he can be pretty healthy, but he spends a lot of mana, and if he doesn't have that Q available, his dueling prowess drops pretty significantly. So when you pair that up with the Lulu, you can have some pretty strong dueling potential. You just have to make sure that the LeBlanc is not in a position where she can join up, because Nocturne LeBlanc, that's quite the scary duo. So my eyes will be on Solid Snake. What is he able to do in the early game? Can he influence Clearlove's early presence, especially once he hits level 6? Or is he going to take this more passive approach? Will he play the game a little bit slower and more towards the scaling avenue, which, to be honest, I don't want to see, but it's something that they have often done.
We heard it from the desk. We know this team is good in the mid to late game, but you might not get the chance to play the mid to late game if you don't show up strong in the early game. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1 of the day, day 2 of plans in Worlds 2018. A beautiful golden Kaza. That's the first time I've seen that.
That is the first time I've seen that as well.
And there's the prize. Digital Summoner's Cup. You can look at it, but you can't touch it. Both these teams are going to be looking to grab it for themselves. Infinity versus EDG. And level 1, Infinity clearly sniffing something out. They're ready to defend their turf or potentially go for the invade as you hear the EDG fan chants alive and well. You saw the billboard. EDG fans are out in force at
very dedicated fans. Very, very dedicated. Always a pleasure to see. Now, Infinity looking for a bit of an early invade to get some vision down, see where Clearlove is starting things off. Right now he's hanging around the top side, but with no ward actually being dropped onto the red buff, they don't have that much information. Now Clearlove,
he's thinking about it. Oh, there's Varus. Does spot him. Managed to take the ward down though, a little bit of gold, tiny bit of experience. Not gonna matter too much here. Could be a small difference maker. Laning phase will start, and it looks like Shen and Varus may be a little late getting to lane. And Scout already getting aggressive here on the level 1, but Lulu with the empowered autos, trading back. Bit of a risk there from Scout.
The double airy proc gonna work out very nicely, but you also have the double corrupting potion from both sides. You'd imagine that the tonic rune will also contribute in terms of the sustain. But we have Clearlove starting on the red side of the map and Solid Snake starting on his red as well. Remember that for Nocturne, not really the best early game ganker. There are potential options around the mid lane against the Lulu if you're able to land the chains. But for the focus, he's just primarily going to try and get level 6 as fast as he can. And with this early pressure, you can already see Koropaco building up for himself. I'd love to see Solid Snake try and use this so that maybe he can get into the enemy jungle, drop a couple wards, maybe even steal a few camps, given that in the early levels, I do give the trading advantage over towards the Camille.
Yeah, and I'm wondering exactly what path Solid Snake wants to take here, because you can see Clearlove going for the slower clear, where you take all 3 of the bottom side camps, you get level 3, you get fast to that level 6, as you were talking about. And Solid Snake so far, moving around, taking the Scuttle Crabs, but not getting any real greater advantages quite yet.
It's a very unique path from Solid Snake. He went from topside red into bot side scuttle, now going into topside scuttle. Remember, clear up level 3. Simply having this level advantage will allow him to win out in the trade, and Ray is coming down as well.
Solid Snake's gonna have to back off here. Good use of the lane pressure there from Ray to come down to threaten. Now, ooh, Katabako's gotta get out of here. Polymorph gonna flash the safety scout, goes in for the auto, and first blood dropping for the man in the mid lane on EDG.
And this is what we were talking about in draft. Lulu, very squishy in the early game, means that if LeBlanc is able to land a good rotation of spells, you can find yourself some very early kills. Scout off to a fantastic start for EDG.
Absolutely the case. 21 CS to 12 already, and a first blood kill, and level disadvantage here counting against him.
So Kotopako tries to go in for the last hit on the cannon. Scout reads it, able to land a full rotation of spells, gets the electrocute, gets the ignite, and finds himself his first blood of the day. Very great way to start off.
We've all seen, we know that facial expression. That's the I'm laning against LeBlanc. Oh yeah, all right, that's how that works. And Scout, of course, World's performance. You can see why people are hesitant, even when this guy looks so good recently, to give him a lot of praise. Because 2-4, not the best record, but you can still see that he's winning his lanes. He's got a solid KDA, and his damage is pretty good as well.
Yeah, and like last year at Worlds, Scout was the kind of guy that just played a little over-aggressive. I remember him pretty much sitting in the enemy's half of the lane throughout the entire laning phase, and while often he could build up advantages, and Clearlove did what he could to try and keep him alive and basically just enable Scout as much as possible, he was still that mid laner that he wasn't reliable, he wasn't consistent, and I feel like over the last year, he's definitely had struggles, but his recent performances have really elevated the team, and especially in their playoffs against IG, he was trying really hard to carry that team, and he was going above and beyond. So to see Scout kind of return to form and make it to the World Championship is definitely a big deal for EDG and for many EDG fans. And to start off with a solo kill, he's definitely going to be feeling pretty confident.
Excellent. Back at home in Korea, too, for Scout. On the bench for Faker for so long, and now trying to find these solo kills on the world stage. But Kotopako still trading back and forth. Has the ignite available for himself, so maybe if Scout gets over-aggressive, as you mentioned was a historical tendency, he could get punished. Not going to quite happen yet. Trading on the bottom side, but iBoy's still winning that one out. Tomkins going to bring him back. Are they going to be able to find the all-in here? Are they now ignited, running for his life? Tries to buy a bit of time with the Spirit's Refuge, but now they're just going to look for two. iBoy is also going to have to back off the flash forward. Tongue connects, he wants one more. Can he get it? The arrow does manage to take it back. Beautiful tanking from Mako, the double dropping for EDG's bottom lane.
And EDG are just crushing Infinity right now. Solo kill in the mid lane, 2v2 kill in the bot lane, and everything is going in favor of Edward Gaming. 2,000 gold lead 5 minutes into the game.
This is trying to kill people across the map. Quick level 6 all in. Right as the level 6 comes through, Scout gets aggressive. Half of Lulu's health in an instant. And Infinity, we wanted to see what they could do in the early game. They might not even get a chance. Gonna go in. Is he gonna get the Scuttle Crab too? No, Sion will take it away. Shane does manage to connect. Bill's gonna follow up with the tether of his own. That's the 2 chains. Back off. Not gonna get anything else. You can tell Infinity now playing a little bit more reserved. They know they're on the back foot now in this early game.
Yeah, just a bit. Infinity, the problem they have now is that you can't really afford to allow EDG to get ahead, especially on this Kai'Sa. Remember that Varus often has the advantage in the laning phase, and the fact that you're falling behind is definitely not the situation you want. Now remember, Infinity, they have a minion wave, so they're looking to go for this trade because they feel they're in the better position, but once you hit all 5 stacks from the Kai'Sa onto a target, you take a lot of damage, and meanwhile, Arcee just building up the stacks from the side of the Tahm Kench, you get gobbled up, you get dragged in, and now you're in a 2 versus 1 situation, allowing iBoy and Mako to go for this dive.
And that Acer Predator replay is just a clear indicator of how iBoy likes to play the game. He doesn't care who you are, he doesn't care what you're playing, he is out here to kill people. Now sometimes that counts against him, but today, Vedius, it is a good look. They go in for that 2v2, and he's now closer to that Rage Blade early on, and already winning a lane where you might not have expected to have a lot of pressure.
Yes, 2-0-0 right now for iBoy. Definitely a great position to be in, and Infinity, for them to come back, they're gonna have to make some miracle plays happen. Solid Snake is gonna have to, how do I say? I was trying to think of a Metal Gear reference. It didn't come to mind fast enough.
This is the one that I've stuck with right now. We see a little bit more aggression on the bottom side. You can see them getting zoned out, and sadly, Solid Snake, he's still in the box. He's hiding. There's been no exclamation points. No one has found him yet. But we need Solid Snake. We need you. Come out, get out of the box, shoot somebody, or in this case, jump at them with your blade legs. That's what Infinity need right now, and it's just not coming through yet.
Well, he's nearly level 6. If he was looking to play around the lane, bot lane would be a good one. There are 0 summoner spells available right now. And they still have a bit of a farm advantage. He's got to be careful here.
Looking aggressive, but forced to burn out the ultimate there. Solid Snake now on the bottom side. We're going to have to see how much he can get done. And once again, this is the guy we're watching to make an impact. He's going bot lane. Bot lane's going mid. Lulu could now just be in trouble. I don't think there's any way out for this. The Lulu trying to get a kill back in return, but Ivoy just on a killing spree. This is a grim state of the game, Vedius. EDG are just taking absolute control from the bottom side up.
Yeah, excellent use of the Tahm Kench ulti very early on into the game. EDG had the push in bot, and they could quickly rotate up towards the river. Even with the vision, it wasn't enough. And unfortunately for Cotopaxi, he was pushing a little too far up into the lane. And with the chains already landing from Scout, results in a very easy kill. So EDG now 4-0, with a 3,500 gold lead.
At 8 minutes.
Yep.
Which is pretty terrifying. And we talked about Solid Snake. He's level 6 now. Maybe he can make a play on the map, but you really need EDG to trip up a bit here in the early game. You need them to make some kind of mistake, because the Nocturne level 6 is here too. I feel like we're just going to hear him push the button. There it is. Goes in. Lulu, where are you going to go? Not a lot of options trying to run. Just silenced and eliminated. EDG are merciless.
Yeah, they're not giving the Lulu a fun time. And I mean, we talked about this in draft. Like, we talked a little bit about the option of a Galio, how you need that extra bit of tankiness, but they decided to stick to comfort, and EDG, I guess they expected it. They wanted to play around it, and it all started with Scout finding that solo kill. He started off the game by getting a 1v1 against Cotopaxi, and ever since he fell slightly behind, they've just been investing resources into getting mid further and further ahead. So EDG now 5 kills to 0. Infinity starting to run out of options in terms of how they come back into this game.
Absolutely are. How long before Cotopaxi can just not enter the lane phase? We see this one now. It's with the help of Nocturne. Just an insane amount of damage, Vedius.
Yep. Like, there's not much you can do, right? It's just...
You got to feel for the dude. Once again, this man got into Korea 2 days ago, gets on stage. Who's his first opponent? It's Scout. Like, you don't get to start with triple and kind of maybe get a warm-up here. You go straight to Scout. That is difficult.
Yes, it is. That is an apt description.
There's probably better adjectives I could have used, but difficult felt appropriate, that is. And now EDG looking good to start this run. And I think if you are an LPL fan, and there are many in the audience right now, this is how you wanted to see this one start out. You did not want to see EDG struggle in the plans whatsoever. And here in game 1, this is just dominance.
Yes, and I think this kind of ties in with many of the expectations that many fans have of kind of the major regions that compete in the play-ins. We saw G-Rex yesterday have a really impressive performance, and you know, often with the LMS third seed, there are a couple doubts, especially after Hong Kong Attitude last year, but G-Rex came up swinging. We saw Cloud9, while a little shaky, still getting a 2-0, and then EDG, I feel like, have looked the most convincing so far of the major regions that we have seen. Finding multiple solo kills, very quick to utilize the early goldies that they've built up, and now they just want to keep the pressure up. The Nocturne ulti is available once again, the Tahm Kench ulti is up too, and EDG, they're just looking for their next targets to kill.
And you have to be terrified, because the amount of mobility between a Kai'Sa, a Tahm Kench, and a Nocturne, they can be anywhere on the map in an instant if they're set up to do so. You have to respect it, and you know, Paranoia, the Nocturne ultimate, really living up to its name at this point, because where there is no vision, they are terrified to go.
And the only person we haven't seen yet is Ray come down to the mid lane, and I wouldn't be surprised if an Ornal suddenly made its way towards that mid lane just to make Cotopaxi's day that bit worse.
So incredibly difficult. 111 to 66 in CS. Bot lane's holding its own decently. Top lane 10 difference.
Here we go,
Snake. Ulti now going to come in. Lamont to be able to make his way out of this one. Everything being burned. They're trying to turn him over, but clearly it's right there. Going to take one down. Trying to grab another one now. The rest of the bot lane is here. This is disaster for Infinity. They finally get one kill, but it might just cost them everything. Ivoy in the face of the Camille. One taken down. Looking for one more, but the flash out to safety. The double still dropping in the end, and here comes the Scion. Looking to make an impact here. We'll get the slowdown, the shutdown as well. This could be the turn. A massive influx of gold into the pockets of the Varus. But Ray coming as predicted. Knockup still going to connect. He's going in. No mercy from the side of EDG in this exchange. Eat up the Scion, make him a zombie, make him run away in fear. Just absolutely no chance there at the end of the day. 10-2 the kill score.
And that was the ace in favor of EDG. The respawn timers are so low. The other members of Infinity had respawned before everyone else had died. 5 for 2 was what EDG were able to pull out off the back of that, and it started off with Solid Snake trying to find his first gank of the game. It went towards the mid lane, and it's nice that they're trying to shut Scout down. Like, they have the Shen ulti there as well, and the plan is solid, but EDG are just so quick to react. Mako's ulti was on the trigger, ready to go. He shows up, and while Scout does die, they quickly turn this into a 3 versus 3, which they're able to turn in their favor. Now, with a good TP and a roam down from Relic, they're able to find a couple of return kills, but then Ray finally joins the fray. He has his ulti to kick things off. Renu doesn't quite get the flash that he needs, and then EDG are more than happy to chase the kills down and round things out with an ace.
Vedius, you gotta respect Infinity for finding that window. They thought maybe they could turn this, but once again, that's the strength of the Kai'Sa, of the Tahm Kench, of the Ornn. So much semi-global presence. It just feels like it's impossible for them to cleanly get a man advantage the way they want to. And we look back, Vedius, you set some clear stakes for what Infinity needed to do. You said, you gotta limit this LeBlanc, and you gotta shut down the Nocturne in the early game. And now that neither of those things have happened, in fact, the opposite has now happened, it just feels so difficult for Infinity to do anything in this game.
And it is, you know, it's one of those situations where 5,000 gold down at 14 minutes into the game. There are very few ways to come back from that. You're very much relying on a team like EDG to make a mistake, and unfortunately, they're not making many mistakes.
No, there you go. Push R to kill a champion. That's all it's going to take.
That's the alert right there. The box has been spotted. EDG were just like, nope, you're not getting out of this one, Mr. Snake.
Oh.
And now they look to continue pushing their advantage. Rift Tower just got picked up. That mid lane at a tower is not going to be lasting very long.
Maybe get a bit of time, try to hit it home. Infinity, can they find a return play here? Well, not too likely. A Scout threatening over the backside, forcing out the Lulu ult immediately. Will they push for a second tower?
I think they will.
They've got just so strong on an individual level. The Herald there to tank for them, but they're going to settle for the charge and about half the turret's HP. Will work out nicely. Infinity holding on to scraps, holding on to what they can, getting farm wherever they think it's safe, but you can see from how close the members are playing to the base that there's not a lot of places that are safe on the map.
No, there are not. And what a debut for EDG. This is definitely how they wanted to kick off their playing stage. Multiple solo kills. Finding themselves an ace 10 minutes into the game. And so far, things are looking very clean. However, remember what we were talking about, Dracos. Up till 15 minutes, I feel like EDG is one of the best early game teams at the World Championship. But past the 15-minute mark, their ability to close out games is something that I've had a bit of skepticism around. Sometimes they don't have the cleanest Barons, sometimes they get a little over-eager, they don't make the best decisions, and I'm going to be watching now how they look to try and end this game.
And you can see the goal difference. Infinity a little bit more dominant domestically. EDG, of course, losing out a little bit, you know, in the summer split a few times more than Infinity, but still, a lot more towers from Infinity, not seeing that early game that they wanted, and seeing an incredible early game from EDG, kind of as expected for many analysts. And Vedius, Clear Love was the other big question mark. Like, why are you playing Clear Love in the early game? Well, everyone else on EDG won in the first few minutes, and Clear Love just got to show up at level 6 and start cutting through people. And we have to wonder, shot calling and leadership is what we expect from this guy. Is this where the shot calling and leadership comes in clutch, and can they close out quickly?
Well, that's what we hope to see as he looks for another ult.
Trying to find a pick here on a Scion. There's the fear. Ornn coming in as well. Tahm Kench is here too. Relic, I don't think there's any way out of this one, buddy. Channeled and shut down in the end. Have to see what the rest of the team can do, as Relic is the sacrificial lamb for that Nocturne ultimate. Pretty much every single one being a death sentence at this point in the game.
Yeah, unfortunately for Relic, he was a little overextended, and the rest of his team couldn't pick anything else up elsewhere on the map. In this situation, you're just forced to play ultra defensively. When you're 7,000 gold down, you're just relying on EDG to make a mistake. Maybe you can find a pick, and here we go. They're looking for it now.
Going in on Tahm Kench, maybe not what you want. Ivoy incredibly strong here. He's going to throw out the ultimate, but Ornn is here to respond, and is going to find him right in the funnel. That's the 3-man. Lining it up, making it easy. Varus on the tree now. We'll buy a bit of time as they try to back off, but Scout now on the backside as well, cutting through that life bar. Kotopako playing with fire as well. They're managing to pull back. Infinity getting out in the end, losing only their jungler, but not getting anything back in return.
Yeah, and Solid Snake, he was like, all right, let's try and find a pick. Let's try and force a fight. Unfortunately, once again, EDG is very quick to react, something that they did a lot in the LPL. I was kind of watching their gauntlet, and what I felt I saw was the team wasn't amazing at forcing proactive plays in like the mid to late game transition, but they were really good at reacting to whatever the enemy team tried to force upon them. And I feel like we're seeing it right now where Mako just seems so aware of what possible plays could happen, and he's just primed and ready to react in time. Clearlove is there as well, and you talked already about the mobility that they have. You combine that in with everything, with already their good reaction speeds, and every time you try to force a play, you immediately get punished for it. And that's why this gold is snowballing ever so more in favor of EDG.
And you gotta look at what Scout's doing right now. He knows that if anyone approaches this wave, he just kills them. So he just waits for the wave to crash, waits to see if there's gonna be an opportunity presented by the opposition there. iBoy and Mako with absolute control of the mid lane, and Kai'Sa on that 2-item spike so early in the game. Only 18 minutes with the double AP threats, and Nocturne with the Duskblade as well. It's just, you cannot get defensive stats fast enough to survive the threats on the side of EDG. Maybe with perfect positioning and use of the ultimates, they can make something happen here, but a difficult task now for Infinity.
Bit of a gamble there to contest the Drake. Surprised the EDG showed that much respect, and I feel like they didn't need to. I guess they were waiting for the Scout to just push out mid, have someone from Infinity catch the wave, and now they have their eyes set on the bot lane.
And this is the point that he's talked about. Outer towers are up, EDG play a clean game. Tier 2s are up, just a little more suspect.
Now, the thing is, though, it's important to remember that the Baron isn't up yet. And closing the game is, you don't need the Baron, but it's often harder to do when you don't have that objective, because you're kind of forced to just push towards the towers, and all you can really do is wave clear. So EDG trying to force these tier 2s down might be a little bit harder, but with that gold lead, they could also just force a fight. Group of 5, say, come fighters. They have so many engage tools that I don't think there's much that they really need to be afraid of. It just depends on how they want to approach this. Do they want to win through brute force, or do they want to try and play it a little bit more slow and calculated way?
I mean, so far we've seen a lot of brute force videos. I imagine that trend might continue. I mean, so incredibly, aggressive here in the early game to pull off those 2v2 kills in lane. A 6-1-2 scoreline now for iBoy, and individual members doing their best to keep up in CS, but still very stacked against them. And I think, you can be honest here that this is the longest shot. They were underdogs coming in, and they are even greater underdogs after that early game. 20 minutes now, though, the Baron spawns, and EDG are so far ahead, they may just be able to try to contest this one. You've got 2.5 items on the majority of your carry threats.
I mean, you talked about it as well, right? With the quick turnaround time, because the team unfortunately had some visa issues, and so they only arrived in Korea pretty recently, and then they're also dealing with the jet lag as well. Like, you set this up at the very beginning, which is like, they are heavy underdogs already, and to be able to find an upset would definitely be impressive and a big deal. And then EDG were just like, no, we're not going to let you. And just the individual talent from EDG coming out and really just dominating in terms of the early game. But I feel like the last 5 minutes have certainly slowed down. We haven't seen 13 more kills, which is great for Infinity. And you never know. Maybe they can get a Baron steal. Maybe they can find a pick. Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those situations where you're kind of looking at long shots, just because of how big the goal difference is.
Long shots or Death Brush? That's the real question.
Brush.
Mako moves forward to check. I just don't know. I don't know if 5 members can kill Mako fast enough to stop the rest of EDG from killing their backline. I like to zoom out here from the observers. Thank you very much. Just highlighting the absolute vision control that EDG have over this topside jungle. Snake, getting a little frisky. Hits him with the tactical sweep, but you don't want to go face first into that Tahm Kench. And every time a skill lands, you have to be nervous that maybe this is the one Kai'Sa follows up on, or the one that Nocturne wants to go in on. No Tahm Kench is a get-out-of-jail-free card here for some of the switchier members on the side of Infinity. That can do a little bit, but may not be enough to save them.
All right, so Baron is up. Ray is pushing bot. I want to see him move up now towards mid lane, have the team push out mid, and then start Baron. And they either get a fight or they secure the objective. One of the two. Ray, that's it. Move up through the river, group up with the rest of your team, generate a numbers advantage, have your LeBlanc throw out a bit of poke, and then start threatening this objective.
Mako's just going to walk at him. Scout flashes it. Oh, God, no, Clearlove 2! They're deleting everybody. There is no mercy, Vedius. EDG, a single moment, a decisive action. The Ornal comes out too. Shen is next on the menu. Oh, it's just not enough of the Spirit's Refuge in the end. Oh, manages to live so far. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless for Infinity, and now it's Baron potentially in the sights of EDG. Exactly the case as Tomkins brings it over. Kaisa may just be enough damage to solo it out, given how strong she is at this point in the game. It'll be a slow and steady clear, and disaster strikes, Vedius.
So I thought that they would go for the slow and calculated play. They decided brute force was the way to go. But you know, we were talking about it, right? I feel like they could just force a fight, and then Scout was like, oh, we can just force a fight because I can one-shot their AD carry.
We call this strategy walk at them. We have a 10k gold lead. It works beautifully.
And they pulled it off. So now they have the Baron in their back pocket. They will now look to siege onto the enemy base. And EDG, 16-2 is the kill score, looking very convincing so far in their first game of the play.
I would say a 13k gold lead is incredibly convincing. Scout doesn't have his team with him and remains confident enough to split push on that top lane tier 2, but good on Infinity. They're ready to punish if they get the opportunity. Sadly, Baron empowered recall, because there's not really any recourse there for them. We can take a look at this one more time. It's a story of one button, and that button is R.
So does he get exhausted too? No, he doesn't. So that's W into R into electrocute, more than enough damage. And then unfortunately, I mean, they're only level 11 as well. Like, Scout is level 14. What can you do? They wanted to get some vision around the Baron, and then EDG were just like, well, you know what? We're just going to fight.
And you got to respect EDG choking out the vision control. And Infinity, there's really no other option. You either give up a Baron or you face check the Baron vision.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose situation for Infinity. And we talked about how they needed EDG to make some kind of mistake, and EDG just haven't done that. So they built up this early lead. They've played it very cleanly. They utilized the vision they had in the enemy jungle very well. And now they're playing all 3 lanes. They have a very fed LeBlanc in the side. And EDG will now just slowly work their way into Infinity's base.
Just looking at those ultimate cooldowns. Seeing when Clear Love is ready to go in next. Is just shadowing the team, ready to use the ulti to dive into the back line. Steady clear. Good news is there's not a lot of range on the side of EDG. If you're Infinity, you can just clear these waves. Do your best to. Sadly, Scout poking this one out, and if any individual member tries to contest here, they will likely just get deleted. So Infinity sending multiple members to take it out. Turret still goes down in the end, though. A slow chip down here.
So Love still hanging around, waiting for an opportunity. Here comes the ult from Ray.
For an opportunity to get it started. There goes the paranoia. The flash comes out anyway. Lulu all isolated and on her lonesome. Scout sweeps in and deletes the opposition. Ivo into the middle of 3 members, does not care. Now looking to clean house. Tomkins can use the ulti, immediately going to cancel. Scout goes golden. Scion, all that's left standing in the face of EDG. And this might just be it, Vedius. Wave is here. They've got more than enough time on the death timers, and no single member can stop this push. A monumental task ahead of Relic. I do not think it can be done. It is the slow, steady closeout here after an explosive early game. EDG are just going to walk it down, Vedius, and a commanding first win here in their play-in group.
Very convincing from the side of EDG. Just a bit, I would say.
Just a little convincing.